Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the hidden patterns that really govern growth, change, and sometimes even collapse in everything from the business world to our own lives. You ever wonder about that? Why does some things just explode onto the scene and then vanish? Or why does learning something new feel like climbing a mountain until suddenly you're at the top? Well, it turns out there are these predictable blueprints behind it all. And I promise, once you see them, you'll start seeing them everywhere. Okay, let's dive in. All right, we're going to start with the most fundamental blueprint of them all, the S-shaped growth pattern. This is really the classic story of how things get started, take off, and eventually, well, mature. So this whole journey, it really breaks down into 3 key stages. First up, you've got that slow and, let's be honest, often super frustrating lag phase. This is the part that takes real faith and persistence. But then you hit that amazing acceleration phase where everything just clicks and the growth feels almost effortless. Of course, that rocket ship ride can't last forever, right? And you eventually ease into the plateau phase as the system kind of matures and reaches its natural limits. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. You see this pattern playing out all around us. I mean, think about tech giants like Uber. They had a really slow start, right? Then, once the idea caught fire, their growth just exploded. But eventually, the market gets saturated and that growth has to level off. You can even see this in our own lives, like learning an instrument. It's such a grind at first. Then all of a sudden your progress skyrockets until you hit that plateau where you're mastering the finer points. So what happens when a system just doesn't get the memo that it's time to slow down? What if that crazy growth phase just keeps on going for too long? Well, that's when we see a pretty dangerous twist on our friendly S-curve. And the culprit here, it boils down to one powerful single concept: delay. This is the gap, the time between something actually changing and us being able to see it, decide what to do, and then have our actions make a difference. This little time lag, it's the villain that can turn sustainable growth into a really dangerous overshoot. And this comparison just lays it out perfectly. On the left, that's the ideal path, right? A nice smooth landing onto a sustainable plateau. But then you look to the right and you see the overshoot. The system just blows right past its limits and is forced into this painful correction. A dip that honestly probably could have been avoided if the signals to slow down had just arrived a little sooner. And yep, this happens all the time in the real world. A retail chain gets so pumped about its growth that it just keeps opening new stores, not realizing until it's way too late that the market just can't support them all. Or think about education. That massive boom in online courses happened so fast that quality and completion rates just tanked, forcing the whole industry to kind of pump the brakes and rethink its strategy. So all of this really comes down to understanding a system's carrying capacity. This is the hard limit, the absolute maximum population or market size or resource level that can be sustained in the long run. And pushing past this limit, even for a little while, always, and I mean always, comes with consequences. Okay, so let's shift gears and look at a different kind of blueprint. This is one that never actually finds a stable plateau. Instead, it lives in this constant rhythm of ups and downs. This is the pattern of oscillation. I want you to think of oscillation as the natural pulse of a system. It's not really about reaching some final destination. It's all about the continuous cycle of rising and falling. The classic example is the predator price cycle in an ecosystem, but it's also the constant ebb and flow of the stock market or supply chain always trying to adjust its inventory. And as you can see here, this pattern is absolutely everywhere. In business, it drives everything from these huge economic cycles of expansion and recession, all the way down to predictable seasonal sales spikes. In education, you can see it in a student's performance throughout the school year, or even in university enrollment trends that shift with demographics. It's just the natural rhythm of things. So what's the engine driving this constant swing? Well, it's a balancing feedback loop that's always trying to hit a goal. But just like with overshoot, it's crippled by delays. There's a delay in just seeing what's happening, then another delay in deciding what to do about it, and then another delay for that action to actually make a difference. With all those delays piled up, the system is always overcorrecting, swinging way too high and then way too low. Okay, so finally, we come to the most dramatic blueprint of all. This one's a real cautionary tale of what happens when that overshoot pattern goes unchecked, and it leads not just to a correction, but to a total collapse. Now, this isn't just a downturn we're talking about. This is a complete structural failure.
The system grows so far beyond its carrying capacity that the very resources supporting it get eroded or even destroyed. This causes a catastrophic fall, often leaving the system way worse off than where it even began. You see this pattern a lot in epidemics. A virus spreads like wildfire. It seems unstoppable until it just runs out of new people to infect. And at that point, its numbers just plummet. The same exact thing can happen with an innovation or a fad. Its own incredible success consumes the entire potential market, which leads to a sudden, dramatic collapse in growth.
So here's the crucial takeaway. These aren't just abstract graphs on a screen, They are incredibly powerful diagnostic tools. They really are the hidden blueprints that shape the world all around us.
Seriously, once you learn to see these patterns, the S-curve, the overshoot, the oscillation, it just changes how you look at everything. It transforms you from being a passenger, just along for the ride through these ups and downs, into an informed navigator who can actually anticipate what might be coming around the corner. So I want you to take a second and ask yourself, where's your current project on its S-curve? Is it stuck in that slow startup phase, or is it in that rapid acceleration? And when you look at your company or your industry, can you spot the delays that might be setting you up for a really costly overshoot? Because recognizing the pattern, that's just the first step. The real question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? How can you shorten those delays, get a better handle on your carrying capacity, and start building systems that are more resilient, more sustainable, and ultimately way more successful? The blueprint is in your hands now.